You're listening to the Cash Flow Academy podcast with Andy Tanner, your source for investing made easy. Here's Andy Tanner.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Academy podcast. I'm your host, Andy Tanner. Congratulations for tuning in. We always acknowledge people who take time to invest themselves. This is where investing is made simple. And as always, it's no surprise, we have a great show lined up. We have Ken Honda, who is a huge fan and friend of the Rich Dad Advisors, and we're certainly fans of his. And we're going to be talking about happy money, the Japanese art of making peace with your money. That's Ken's book. And as you listen to what he has to say, and you like what he has to say, you can get in touch with him at kenhonda.com. So with that introduction, I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about yourself, Ken. But thank you for being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you, Andy, so much. I've known some of your friends. We just finished Robert Kiyosaki's event in Tokyo. We had a rugby tournament, so we had so much fun together with all of them. So I'm so honored and excited to be on your show, Andy. Thank you for your invitation.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, Robert loves that rugby, and that's been circled on his calendar for a long time. So
I'm sure. So that was a good enough motivation for him to come back to Japan.
Hey, it doesn't take, I was over there years ago with Kenny McElroy, and we had such a great time. We were in Tokyo, and it was right around the time that they began. They've always been very aggressive with their monetary policy. But I remember there was a Japanese newspaper printed in English, believe it or not. And I was reading, I thought, boy, I should short the yen. I didn't do it. George Soros did, and he made a lot. Made about $1 billion. So swing it. So maybe I need to go back and try again. It'd be fun to visit. So tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself and what made you interested in writing the book and all that sort of thing.
Yes. So I started out as a consultant in my early 20s. My father was an accountant, and he taught me everything about money when I was small. So my ambition was to reach financial independence by the age 30, and which I did. So at the age 29, when my wife and I found out that she is pregnant, we decided to take some time off, and it turned out to be 4 years. So we just concentrated on child raising for 4 years. And during the 4-year semi-retirement, I got this vision of writing a book. All of a sudden, I was a law major student and doing an accounting job. So writing is not my forte. But the inspiration was so big that I started writing. And at the same time, actually, Robert Kiyosaki wrote his first book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That also gave me the inspiration. And since then, I've written about 54 or 5 original books and sold about 8 million copies, including my recent work, Happy Money, that came out last June in US, UK, Australia, and it's being printed in 40 countries now. So
that's
Spanish,
fantastic.
Korean just came out, yes.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the success of the book. It's easy to write a book; it's hard to get people to read them. And when you have that many people reading, that means there's some substance to it. I love this topic, happy money and making peace with money, because we all have a relationship with it. It's something we all need and something we use. It translates into the quality of care we get to give our children, the quality of food we eat, our lifestyle, as much as we not want to focus on money. And so it's a great title in being happy.
Yes.
Because so often there's fear and then there's anxiety and bills to pay and my future. And, as human beings, we want to survive, and that survival instinct is big. And so we know money's a part of that. So why is it that money often isn't a pleasant subject for people? Even those that have it are worried they're going to lose it or how to invest it. Why is there anxiety and fear over this?
What I found out was that money triggers emotions in our life, because after 1900, most of us live in the city, which means we don't grow food. So we have to buy food for survival. So somehow money is tied to survival in our psyche. So that's why we are so afraid of money. and we so want money. So there's this hate and love relationship with money. As much as we want to have money, we just hate to think about it because it just brings up so much emotion.
It's interesting you mentioned you took some time off to concentrate on family, and I just applaud that. That's a huge priority for me, and it is so interesting that when it comes to money, that often defines I guess we allow it to define who we are. Often, no matter where I've been in the world, people will say, well, what is your name and what do you do? And they might say, well, I'm a plumber, I'm a carpenter, I'm an accountant. And we almost label and define ourselves where we could just easily say, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a teammate, I'm a rugby player, right? We often define exactly who we are simply seeking this money. So how does that reflect a person's view on their own life? I mean, what have you found?
I've interviewed so many people for my books, and one of my bestseller title is How Ordinary People Became a Millionaire. And I have found so many interesting findings about money and people's lives. We attach self-value to money, so we define ourselves with how much money we make or how much money we have, and it's almost like it's a common phenomena in our industrialized country. So we cannot see ourselves without money. So when we meet somebody, we instantly judge somebody if that person is where he or she is financially, and by the look or the looks or the things they wear or the things they live, the cars they drive. So we don't really see each other in real person. So like dating is the same thing, and the family issues. So and there comes a stress because in order to keeping up with keep up with the Jones, that's a phrase in English, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's so hard because once we make more money, we spend more. So there's this rat race that Robert Kiyosaki is talking about. We get easily stuck. So how much ever we make, we don't feel that it's not enough. So unless you find a peace of mind by yourself, you have to set up your standard. What is enough for you? I call it money container. And unless you find the right size for you, you want bigger size, and bigger size, and then you get stuck.
On one side of the spectrum are the Stoics, the people who, the monks, the people who say, happiness is going to be found when we release ourselves of money, and we find contentment, right? We look at inward for contentment. And on the other end, there's this incredible drive that people have to have more and more and more. And to me, it seems that there's probably a balance somewhere, but it's almost like money's an energy source.
Yes.
Or it is, or we could view it that way. I know that's something you could share on. Talk about that a little bit.
I had a great mentor. His name is Wahei Takeda. He was called Warren Buffett of Japan. He was an investor and a cookie maker. He's like an owner of Charlie and of the chocolate, And he taught me the most important thing is look at money as energy. So when money comes in, say arigato. When money leaves your life, also arigato. That means arigato in, arigato out. When money comes into your life, you can say thank you for money coming in. And when you spend your money, also say thank you for staying with you. So by looking at money as energy, you appreciate about your money and financial situation wherever you are. You start this cycle of appreciation, and appreciation appreciates. So whatever you appreciate grows. And what's interesting is that people who are thankful about life tend to get more opportunities, more thank you, and more appreciation in general.
The attitude of gratitude, that's a wonderful insight, because as we look at money tied to emotion, money tied to stress, money, how do we make me feel? If I ever have a down day, which everyone does now and again, there's an old song that I learned as a kid in church called Count Your Many Blessings, and the attitude of gratitude. And gratitude is definitely an emotion that is a happy one. It's on the positive side. And so to look at this, and as an entrepreneur, as an investor, we own companies, and as an entrepreneur, we own companies. So either way, the money comes from a customer. And so when that dollar comes in, I get to say, thank you. Thank you for doing business with me. I'm grateful we're able to do business. And perhaps even if someone's still an employee, they were able to serve their boss as a customer and say thank you for the opportunity to exchange and have equal exchange one with another. Absolutely love it. So the title of the book's Happy Money. What's unhappy money? What's that? What is the difference?
The money. That's the money we know. The alimony that we pay unwillingly, or the taxes or certain things that you have to pay, we pay with grudges and frustration. So when we receive a check, we complain about it. Is this all? And also, your kids may be upset with you. They want more money, allowance money, and they want more new iPods or iPhones or whatever that is. Everybody is complaining about money. It doesn't really matter how much money you make or you have. It's about the attitude. And unfortunately, I think about 95 or 98% of all the money in the world are unhappy money, because that money is spent and circulated with anger, frustration, and despair. So unhappy money gives you feeling, and when you get it, and when you spend it, also makes you feel miserable. And it's the same amount of money. With the same amount of money, you can feel happy. You can say, for example, today I just just checked that 10th of month is a credit card payment, and a certain amount of money was deducted, and I appreciated the amount, and also I appreciated the fact that I had enough money to pay the bills. So every time I get a bill, I say thank you, not to the bill, but thank you for the fact that I'm abundant enough to be able to pay the bill. And also, I just think of the people who did something for me, because when I get a bill, either it's electricity or accountant or whoever that is who sent me the bill, they did something for me. So I always appreciate the person or the company who did a great service for me.
Could I just lend a testimony to that for those
please.
that are listening? This is a fantastic book to read. This is a fantastic attitude to have. I remember that I was in an investigation. I was a whistleblower, and so I blew the whistle. I saw some people I thought weren't doing what they ought to, and I didn't go to the government. I went to their company, and I said, you have some people doing this, and that email chain got subpoenaed one day, and next thing you know, I got attorneys, and I'm lowering up because they're going to have me as a witness in a big trial, and they had to vet me as that witness. And so to do that, I had to spend about $100,000 in attorney's fees. But I have to tell you, I felt that, Ken. I felt that gratitude, because through that, if that not ever happened to me, I wouldn't, because he's now my attorney today, I never would have met him without that experience, and he's the best money that I spend. And you and I, before we went on the air, we had a chance to talk about, you spent some time with Tom Wheelwright, and the opportunity I have to send his firm a check for doing my taxes for me, I do feel those attitudes of gratitude.
Yes,
even to go out to dinner. Even to go out to dinner, the fact that my family, we can go out and have an ice cream cone together. It's amazing that in the history of the world, the abundance we have, I don't know that we've appreciated. We're talking with Ken Honda. He's the author of Happy Money, the Japanese art of making peace with your money. You can also go to his website, kenhonda.com. Could I ask you, does part of this unhappiness that people have without money, is there, and I don't know how it is, the difference between here and in the United States and in your home country of Japan. I know the cultures are very different, but there's not a lot of education in the United States school system about money. And so when people grow older and they have to have it and they have to deal with it and they have to invest it or not, I think not knowing how to, imagine if we didn't know how to be kind to people, if we weren't taught to be kind, well, relationships are going to suffer. If we weren't taught to be unselfish, relationships are going to suffer. Well, if we're not taught about money, does that harm the relationship that people have with money? Is just not knowing about it?
Yes, exactly. I've done some research on happiness. By the way, I've written, most of my books are written on happiness and money and relationships and the balance between family and work.
Mm-hmm.
And so my finding is that it doesn't really matter where you live, Europe, China, Africa, North and South America, and Asia. Money is the major cause for divorce,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be the biggest stress in the workforce, of course, and also with your family members. So, unless you know enough about money and emotional intelligence, you're going to suffer because money makes you feel miserable. Money makes you feel you're unworthy. Money makes you feel great more than necessary. So it's addictive.
Yes.
So it's almost like cocaine or some kind of drugs. When you get money, you feel high. So some super achievers, they get addicted to making money. And so money is such a abusive substance. So you have to be very careful with how you deal with it. That's why we love money, but we hate money because we know potentially money could harm us from our experiences.
I have to ask this. I'm so curious because you and I have something that I believe is in common. I have two sons, and
Mm-hmm.
I care much about my family. And about 6 years ago, I'd done a lot of traveling and a lot of teaching and speaking. As a Rich Dad advisor, I'd volunteer my time to that organization, speak with Robert. And about 6 years ago, I went to Robert and Kim and said, you know what, I want to stay home. I don't want to travel as much. I want to coach my son's basketball team. And that, to a lot of people, I think, I mean, they were gracious. They understood it 100%. But I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that would look at that and say, well, Andy, you can write books and, you have a podcast and you can do all this stuff. You really want to just coach a Little League basketball team? And I got to tell you, Ken, that 5 years of a couple hours a day with my son and his friends, I wouldn't trade that for $1 million, or $10 million. Would you
Mm-hmm.
share just a little bit about that experience you had? Because spending 4 years at home, just saying I'm going to be a dad, we're going to raise our child, and focus on that. That's a time away where you could have made your bank account bigger, right? You could have
Mm-hmm.
gone out, bought more assets, pushed that. What was the experience like of having? I call this being bigger than your money, is what I call it, is the ability
Yes.
to be bigger than your money and focus on something else. What was that experience like? What were the rewards? Would you do it again?
Yes, thank you for asking. When we found out that my wife is pregnant, I did interviews with so many different background of people in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and I asked them, what would you regret most while you were raising a child, and what would you do it differently? And I thought I would hear so many different things, but over and over again, I heard only the same story. They said, I wish we spent more time with a baby or with a girl or boy. And I thought, wow, that's a key. They didn't tell me anything about how to spend the time. They said more time. So it's not about what we do. It's about how we spend it's about the time we spend with the child. So I decided to take the time off. And when I did, first I feel miserable because, in Japan, if you're 29, you're supposed to work harder than ever.
Yeah.
So, so like everybody, like all my friends are wearing, very nice suit, and I was wearing a sweat, and all the poops all over. So like, I feel very miserable, to be honest. But at the same time, I just ask myself, life is made of memories. So would you trade money for this memory? Because I'm such a happy daddy. I witnessed the first time my daughter spoke. I think she spoke daddy. That's what I believe. But
I think if you ask your wife, it's probably mommy, Ken, probably mommy. But I get it, I
yeah,
really do.
but I think daddy. But anyway, so I saw her stand for the first time.
Hmm.
So I saw many moments, and I'm the only one that I know. And That's enough. So I'm so happy. I think of myself as a happy father before anything. So, and also happy husband. So I've done so much in career-wise, but I'm so proud of my daughter, and I'm so proud of myself that I took some time for my family, and I encourage everybody to do that at least for a day or 2 days. That's something we can do.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're so carried away with money and work, and it's so addictive. That's why I'm so inspired to write so many books on happiness and money. We should not sell our happiness and family time to money. It's almost like evil is trying to do some business with you. Are you gonna trade, your time with money? Mihara Ende Momo is my favorite book, but there's this guy who is trying to steal your time. He's a banker of time. They want you to trade your time with money. And I think everybody is doing it. And it's so scary when you come to think of it. But we do it so subconsciously, so we don't even know what we're doing. And then we know it. Everybody will know at the age 75, if you're alive, oh, damn, I should have spent more time on what really matters. But the irony of life is by then it's too late.
Yes. As I listen to you speak, Ken, and I think that our listeners are feeling the same thing, is you're a man of tremendous spirit. And one of the things that I'm gaining, I'm so lucky to get to do the podcast because I get asked questions and talk to successful people. And the sense that I'm getting right now is that you have a tremendous power over the money by being happy with it. If a person
Yes.
wanted to invest, they might not be able to emotionally survive risk because they're a prisoner of their money. They're unhappy with it. And if they were to lose it, they would feel like they were losing a family member. And so therefore they don't risk well, they don't think well, and they probably have less than maybe what they could have because they're so attached to it. Any truth to that in your experience?
Yes, it's so true. So the first thing I did is healing my money wounds that I teach a lot. You
Oh,
have to
talk about
heal.
that. Talk about what a money wound is. That's awesome.
Yeah, most of us, I'd say all of us, have some form of money wounds. My money wounds happen when I saw my father crying when I was 9 or 10. When I came back, my father was crying like a child. I couldn't believe it because I thought, man, my father was especially a tough guy,
Yeah, and in
and my
Japan, that's a big
yeah,
deal. Yeah.
yes, my father taught me that his client, he was an accountant. His accountant and best friend committed family suicide.
Oh my
He
gosh.
killed three family members, his wife, his two kids, and he killed himself after that. And a few days before that happened, he came to my father to ask for some money to loan him. But he said no, because that money would have gone to the loan shark. So he had the money for ready for the family because after he was recommending bankruptcy, after he filed bankruptcy, that the money was saved for the family to be given. But he is a Japanese guy. He doesn't talk much, so he all his life he regretted why he didn't tell that fact that he's going to loan some money after bankruptcy. But it was sort of his code of honor that
Hmm.
put him into depression. So money is a scary thing. Is a thought I really had, the belief system. So you have to be very careful with money. I'm sure everybody was scolded for just abusing money,
Yes.
wasting your money. So unless you heal the pain that you're still carrying, you're so afraid of taking a risk in investing or just even spending for groceries. Do you always feel insecure? Am I doing all right? And then you have to really heal and let go of the money wounds you have. Otherwise, you cannot be free from money completely.
I love the themes of your book and the themes of this podcast. Just to recap a little bit, the idea of having gratitude in our life gives us a huge advantage, and being grateful for the money that we do have. The idea of being able to not be owned by our money, and where it serves us instead of us being a servant. You mentioned it can be like cocaine, and I think that's literal. I think there's dopamine that's released in our system, just like when a guy takes cocaine. I think that's literal. And then
Mm-hmm.
also this idea of being educated, that if you know about money, you can deal with it, and that you'll be a better investor if you're not chained to it. Let's do this. You've been so gracious with your time. This has been fantastic.
Thank you. I'm joining you too.
If you were, if someone's listening right now and they might be struggling with money, they might be looking at bills they can't pay.
Mm-hmm.
And then there might be some people who are out of the rat race and they have lots of money, but their relationships aren't what they want it to be, and they feel like another Porsche or another Lamborghini would do the trick, or but regardless of where they're on their spectrum, if someone feels unhappy when they think about the money, what would be the first steps? What would you tell them? I would tell them to buy your book, but what would be the steps for someone? What's a first step towards healing that?
First of all, you have to check your emotional inventory.
Hmm.
Money makes you feel a certain way. It's so obvious and it's so fun to watch how people react to this. So when you think of money, what comes into your mind? You may be upset, you may be worried. So I call them money EQ types. There are money maker, money warrior, money spender, money, gambler. So there are types of people who react to money. So you must have a dominant feeling or emotions around money. And you have to come up with why I always feel worried about money, why I always feel so overwhelmed by money. So you have to really search like a detective. What happened to you? And what did you decide about money? And then what did you do with your money? As if you are worried about money, you either become a hoarder. That means you keep
Yep.
saving, saving, saving. Or if you're worried, you start making. People react to a certain way about money worries. It's so interesting how people's personality changes your life. But anyway, we are so heavily influenced by money and our emotions inside, because that will really motivate you to work harder or like to do nothing. One of my friends, he stayed home all day during vacation time because it's going to cost his family a fortune to move, to do something. So
Wow.
like, why not watch a movie or something? And so his family doesn't have to spend money. So your money attitude changes your whole lifestyle too. So unless you face your feeling and what makes you trick, what makes you feel small, or what makes you feel happy, you cannot really make peace with money. So that's what I teach. And I'm so happy that people are finding more freedom after releasing all your money wounds and all the unhappy memories, because your parents suffered as much as you suffered. And all the money wounds were actually passed down from our parents, from our grandparents, and our ancestors. So we're carrying these money worries that happened in 1930s after the Great Depression. And you'll be so surprised how much you have carried from your family lineage.
We've been speaking with Ken Honda, the author of Happy Money, the Japanese Art of Making Peace with Your Money. Ken, thank you so much for being on the Cashflow Academy podcast. I know that your spirit and your sincerity and your goodness has not just penetrated my heart. I'm sure the people that have been listening do the same thing. I always people say, they give me advice. They say, don't let your podcast be an infomercial. And I disagree with that, because what's wrong with good information? And I always tell people, when I have someone who's written a book that I think's worth reading, I really encourage them to take action and read it, because, and the thing I'll often say on this podcast, I'll say, if you had a chance to take someone like Ken, financially independent by the time he's 30, takes 4 years off to be with his child, written many, many, many books, is in the right circles, wouldn't you like to take him to dinner, and wouldn't you treat him? Well, you can get much more than just an hour's worth with Ken with his book, and you can study it and reread it. And who doesn't want more happiness? So, Ken, I just appreciate your manner and your tone and your goodness. And I just invite everyone to drop by kenhonda.com and learn what it is about you do. Any final words before we close?
Thank you so much, Andy, for inviting me. My last words is, please be happy. Please find your happiness no matter what. It doesn't really matter how much money you make or how much money you have. It's about your attitude toward life. So once you start thinking about your life, you can find happiness. And the key is in the memories, especially with somebody who is very important for you. When you're on the deathbed, you don't think about, oh, I wish I worked harder and saved more money. You're going to probably wish you had more quality time with your family members and friends. So please do so. You don't have to wait till you die. We can start living our life.
I don't think I can improve upon that. Thank you for listening to the Cash Flow Academy podcast. Again, I'm your host, Andy Tanner. This is where investing is made simple. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Cash Flow Academy podcast with Andy Tanner. For more information on investing made easy, go to thecashflowacademy.com.